What's going on, Packers fans? Aaron Nagler here with Bill Schmid, ready to talk some Green Bay Packers football on Carry the G Radio, the podcast. Billy, how are you today?
I'm doing great, man. We are getting so close to getting out of the underwear Olympics and getting to police blotter season, and then we get to training camp. So we're getting real close to the 2025 season.
We're hoping to skip right past police blotter season.
Listen,
hoping we just zoom right through that without any problems.
It's gotten better, but listen, look at that Kansas City team last year. They were like,
oh my goodness.
June to July was a tough spot for our wide receiving core. Let's just be done with that part and get to training camp.
Man, it's so funny you bring that up because I want to say not the only, but like the one I remember the most when it comes to the Packers is July 4th weekend with Andrew Corliss down in Miami trying to hide behind a bush after letting off a firearm. And I legit was upstate with my family at a friend's place and had to oh, sorry guys, I got to work. What? It's 4th of July. It's like, yeah, I know, but I gotta work on something. Thanks, Andrew.
Real quick, hold on one second. I got to go fire off a couple of takes. Just like you said, I just got to fire off a couple real quick. And I do. Listen, it's tale as old as time. When the players get away from the building, you never know what's going to happen.
Got to hold your breath a little bit.
It's a different test than it used to be, right? A lot of times it used to be you got to stay in shape. Now it's like we just got to get ourselves there. And Matt LaFleur did say he's gonna be living his best life. You see the best version of him in those 5 weeks in between mini camp to training camp.
Yes, sir.
But that could quickly change if he gets told, I got to go upstairs. Hold on.
Headlines, something going on. Got to take some calls. Got to help craft a statement about how they're gathering information. Yeah,
they got to get my statement out on the team letterhead. Yeah, we don't want any of that nonsense.
Nope. But, of course, prior to that, they do have to wrap up these OTAs and said minicamp next week, which is why I wanted to talk to you. Because, look, it's not really football, but there are football-type activities happening. And a few headlines here or there and guys talking into microphones and saying things and revelations happening. None bigger, I would say, Bill Schmid, none larger than Kenny Clark, who was a bit of a whipping boy last year here in these internet Packers fan streets, letting everyone know, hey, guess what? I had to have surgery in January because of an injury I suffered down in week 1's contest in Brazil. Got some bone spurs, got some bunion action happening there, Billy. I think everyone who was so upset about Kenny Clark's 2024, I think they got to get in line and issue an apology.
Yeah, I think there will be a good train of that going on. And just like he was, you mentioned whipping boy in the internet streets, man, post games, we got a lot of Kenny Clark.
I'll bet.
A lot of frustration on Kenny Clark. Because, listen, the numbers are never going to be what you want them to be at the defensive tackle spot unless you're Aaron Donald.
Yes,
right? Or correct. Chris Jones, right? Yeah. Unless you're one of the top 3 guys that's sacking the quarterback from that
generational talent that only comes along once in a blue moon, unless you're that guy.
Yeah, because you're going to look and be like, 8 sacks? That's nothing. Well, from that spot, it's quite significant. It's pretty crazy to be able to do. Not only the scheme change, Nags, which definitely was one that I continue to put. Yep. He did, and this is where I thought it was even more impressive hearing about it. There were stretches of games where he was not rushing the quarterback.
Right.
But if you go back and watch in the middle portion of the season, he was doing great stuff in the run game. I mean, he really was. And he was eating up double teams, wasn't going to look great. It wasn't going to play with tackles or numbers, but he was still effective enough into what they wanted him to do. Healthy. How much does he help Devontae Wyatt is my favorite part of this, because Wyatt was the other one who needed to be healthy, I thought, last year. And those two on the interior, all due respect to Carl Brooks, who's always hustling, Colby Wooden and company. I think those two guys that are the headliners for a reason are difference makers, and healthy. I'm excited to see what they do this year.
Well, I love the possibility of Kenny kicking inside and playing nose early on, like on these kind of early rundowns, right? Because you're talking about his work in the run game, and that was, I would say, exemplary at times last year.
Yeah.
But no one cares about that, especially after you sign a new deal. People want sacks. People want you to be hitting the quarterback, right? And yes, no question about it, Kenny came up short in that capacity last year. Now, it turns out there might have been a circumstance leaning into why. And it's not the only reason. I do think, his ability to get after the quarterback is going to be maybe not prevalent, maybe not like just flip a switch and now he's going to be getting guys on the ground, etc. But I do think that quick twitch he has off the line of scrimmage, especially if he is playing nose right over the ball, you're going to see him creating havoc a lot more. Now, that doesn't, again, necessarily mean he's suddenly going to have tons of pressures and tons of sacks. I don't ever see him as a, double-digit sack guy.
Right.
But I do see him as someone who can still play at a high level and affect the quarterback with regularity. And I do think twofold, moving to nose and then also, having a healthy foot will certainly help in that regard.
Yeah, and how about the the whole parts being able to help each individual's numbers and how we look at each spot, right? Like, I mean, the outside rushers can only really factor in all the time and be able to get home when you're forcing and not allowing the quarterback to step up.
Yep.
When there's a clear path for you to get up into the pocket or escape the pocket, difficult to get there. So I think everybody year 2 into Hafley's system helps, as well as you mentioned it early downs. I'm excited to see him in the run game, but also being spelled by both Georgia boys that I'm excited to see on the defensive line, well as just they're always going to rotate bodies in there. Yeah. But for the money downs, it's going to be a Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt show as long as they're healthy. And I think that's a great deal for you.
It is. And I will say, hopefully throughout a game, right, you do have moments where, yes, Kenny and Devontae Wyatt are your guys, right? They're obviously the headliners. But I think there are going to be moments, and we saw a little bit of this yesterday during practice, is Lucas Van Ness kicking inside. And Matt LaFleur asked about it afterwards and said, yeah, there's some idea toward kicking him inside on obvious passing downs. Now, here's another guy who talked into a microphone yesterday and talked about a thumb injury that was affecting him all last year. Really kind of put the brakes on what he was trying to do with his hands, trying to disengage from blocks, etc. It's interesting because I obviously have a lot of accident forgiveness for Kenny because he's done it. I've seen it. I know what he's capable of. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense that, he was dealing with this injury all year. I have a pretty good, a high level of confidence that he's going to look a lot better this year. Obviously, with Lucas Van Ness, I don't have the same grace, Billy. And I understand that's probably unfair, but I need to see him do it consistently at any point. Injured, not injured, outside, inside. I love the idea of kicking him inside. I love the prospect of his athleticism and his quick twitch stuff working against some of those bigger, more lumbering guards, centers, what have you. It's great in theory. But again, man, oh boy, with Lucas Van Ness, I need to see it.
Yeah, you only get that kind of forgiveness if you do have some pelts on the wall. And I mean, the one other one that you didn't include there was college or pro. Like, I mean, like there's not like an elongated period of him college or pro dominating and doing it at a consistent high level. And the lining up inside. Well, good. I'm glad that we get to see it because seemingly it was the only ones that you saw in the highlight tape when he was drafted 13th overall because they played him there all the time. Like it makes sense to go and do something and line him up in a spot that he's been successful at before. But you're right, and it's not for bad reason. You need to have some you got to have some forgiveness for a guy that's been able to do it and working on his third contract. Also, it does sound a little bit more like excuse me, like, hey man, I was hurt too. What's up, dude? Everyone's saying.
I mean, it is unfortunate. He just happened to talk
I had a bad.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. No, but I mean, just like
that was kind of my thought when I saw the quote. I was like, "Hey guys, I was hurt too." I mean, because you start scrolling there from an hour and a half ago when you sit down on the porcelain throne. You get up there. I'm like, all right, well, I just heard 3 guys say they were hurt. I know everyone's dinged up at this point. Oh my god!
First time you're saying that answers all the questions.
Oh, good.
But it does because for Van Ness, he also admitted, and I thought the rest of it was well said. I know it's put up or shut up time. No one has to break this information to me or break some news to me. I know what this year means to me. And that had to be a disappointing and frustrating period of time, not being able to be at your best and knowing there's something that was precluding you from being able to do it. But yeah, the best guys find a way, and it's usually not a hand issue or a thumb issue that's generally keeping you from that spot, being able to get to the quarterback with some kind of consistency.
I will say something that I have been heartened by over the course of these 2 OTA practices that have been open to the media is that there hasn't been any messing around. There hasn't been any kind of gamesmanship. When it comes to when they've been lining up their front 4, it's been Gary and Van Ness on both edges. And that has just been locked in. right? And now, obviously, as practice goes on, guys are in and out, the twos, ones kind of get mixed up, blah, blah, blah. But out of the gate, both days, it's been Gary and Van Ness as your defensive ends. And that's what it needs to be, right? Like the fact that, forget about like production, what they've done, haven't done, etc. I mean, these are two guys who were picked at 12 and 13. You hope those are your starters over the Aaron Mosbys of the world or the Kingsley and Igbaris of the world. And Igbari played way more than Van Ness last year. You know, Brent Cox
and
Jr.
it wasn't close.
Played a lot more and was more productive than Van Ness last year. Like, and God bless him. I appreciate production in the green and gold, whoever it is, right? But man, it is time, 1,000,000,000% time for Van Ness to be the clear frontline starter and to start producing.
Well, and to take it, right? Because that's being said. Listen, this is how it starts. But fellas, by week 2, we reevaluate this thing daily. Yeah. And don't be surprised within the first week and a half, 2 weeks of the pads being on, if that gets shuffled around, because there will be clear messages sent. But you're right. And it's one of my favorite parts of training camp battles.
Oh, let's go.
Because the battles have, in theory, been won. The coaching staff kind of knows who they want to win every single battle.
To win those jobs, yes.
But they'll be open, and if you allow us to make it a battle, they'll be ready to add some competition.
Speaking of which, let's flip it around to the offensive side of the ball, to your ballywick in the offensive line. Sir, I talked about this on Happy Hour last night at CHTV. I've been talking about it on daily. I mean, I don't think it's, outlandish to say, and I know it's 2 open practices. We don't know what they're doing other behind closed doors when the media is not watching. We can't read too much into it. Matt LaFleur lecturing us from the podium yesterday. Don't read too much. I'm here to read too much into it, Billy. Let me tell you, I think it is glaringly clear that they want Jordan Morgan to win that job at left tackle. Oh, and yeah. I know Rasheed Walker's been the first guy out of the gate both days that media's been there, but he has been quickly replaced by Jordan Morgan both days, been given ample kind of look, run, what have you, both at left tackle and right guard, obviously. But man, I think they are begging Jordan Morgan to win that job. You talk about going into training camp with as a coach, right, a clear idea of what you want to have happen. I think they want Jordan Morgan to win that job.
Well, and I don't know where you fall in on it. I don't know what if their goal is for all of 25 for him, then for one of those 2 guys to not be on the football team, right? Like, are you thinking that one of those guys sits and the other one is playing, or if they're going to continue to rotate? Because you're right, they desperately want Jordan Morgan to take that job, and they're going to give him every chance. Yeah. But if you have 2 starting caliber left tackles on your team, there's many people that around the league would say, oh, we would desperately need one of those guys.
We'll take one of those guys off your hands.
We would be very interested in acquiring one of those said players. But it's not a position that you very much ever deal. No. So, I think Rasheed Walker has, for really no problem of his own other than he's just played good football, but maybe not elite football.
Correct.
To the point where they're like, good, not great, we can get better. And that's when they're as dialed in on continually adding competition as Goody has been over the last year and a half. Like, we're never going to settle for just being good at a position when I think we can be great. So the championship mindset, no doubt about it. It's the right one to have, but especially when that spot is going to demand the kind of money that left tackle does. And
there you go.
You need to be another component, a great player if we're going to pay you to be great at one of the most expensive positions.
Exactly. And here's the thing too. Look, this could all become moot by the time, that first week of pads coming on and Rasheed Walker just balls out, right? And is clearly the better option, which is entirely possible. Like, don't get it twisted. Rasheed, like you said, has played at a very high level pretty damn consistently throughout his couple years here as a starter. But, man, the upside is undeniable when you talk about Jordan Morgan. They drafted him in the first round for a reason. Now, maybe he ends up fitting in at guard. That's entirely possible, too. I know there are plenty of evaluators who saw him and projected him to be a guard in the NFL. So I'm not saying that that's impossible or that could never happen. But, man, you're talking about, the contract stuff. You can't pay everybody. You're about to pay Zach Tom. They're going to pay Zach Tom. Now you turn around and you're going to pay Rasheed Walker, to your point, market rate at left tackle?
No chance.
No, you're going to, if he wins the job, which he could, then you let him play it out. You let him hit the street, he signs a big deal someplace else, and you take that comp pick. And then you slide in Jordan Morgan or whoever next year. I mean, if Rashid were to win the gig, that's how I see that playing out.
Yeah, and then next year it's Belton and Morgan probably competing for the job. But like, if they already have in their visions of what 2026's offensive line looks like, one of those guys at left tackle, one of those guys at right guard. And I think the reason why Morgan is more intriguing for them at tackle is because it gives you a little bit more athleticism on the edges, which Tom does clearly as well. As good as you think he can be at guard or at center, he gives you a lot of athleticism and great feet on the outside, and then big maulers on the inside. The other thing that I've looked at in Nags, you're seeing the same stuff I am. Aaron Banks is a big son of a bitch. I mean, that guy is a big old dude, and I'm excited to see him moving cats. And I think there's an intriguing part in a copycat league where they saw Mekhi Becton at 360 some pounds lining up at right guard. And why don't we go try to find one of ours as well? And Belton and Banks.
Belton could end up at guard too.
That's right guard and left guard, 100%. I think is what they would love to have going forward.
And here's the part where I was just talking about this with Malcolm in our rookie kind of watch video earlier today. The Belton thing is so interesting because you add in the fact that they did sign Banks, right? And I know Brian's kind of tried to shoot this down publicly, but you cannot tell me that that's not a conscious choice to maybe rectify some of the issues they've had when it comes to third and fourth down. It's short yardage. You're trying to get that push. You're trying to own the line of scrimmage. They just have not been able to do that. Now, Matt's done a good job of drawing stuff up, using angles, traps, what have you, even like adjusting and starting to use Tucker Kraft in a tush-push type of way. Like, they've done stuff to kind of mitigate that problem. But man, this is a thing that goes back to hell when McCarthy was in town. Like, as far as when push comes to shove and it's time to own the line of scrimmage, you need people movers. They have been athletic up front, but they haven't been maulers. They have not been maulers in Green Bay. And all of a sudden you start putting Banks, Elton, Jenkins when he comes back, and then maybe a Belton at right guard. Man, now or even Sean Ryan, who has that mentality, right? He's not the biggest dude on the block, but he's a guy who plays to the echo of the whistle. Now you're talking about some people movers. Now you're talking about actually controlling the line of scrimmage in a way that they have not done in Green Bay for a while.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned Sean Ryan because I think he's exactly a part of why this conversation is happening. I think Sean Ryan's going to get a nice contract as well next year.
Yep.
Probably not in Green Bay.
Right?
Yep. So there's two. Him and Rashid Walker could be on.
We'll take the compensatory pick.
We'll take the compensatory pick, and you can go get your John Runyon Jr. contract. And damn, okay, because they played a lot of football and they played for the Packers, and they got a rep. There's a reputation that you're going to be able to understand how to play, and that you've done it in a multitude of different ways. I'm glad you mentioned it. People think that,
and his tape is better than Josh Myers, because I can already hear someone in the comment section go, "Well, Josh Myers only got whatever from the Jets." It's like, yeah, but Josh Myers' tape exists.
Yeah, and also
Sean Ryan's tape is better.
Yeah, and Josh Myers also signed with a team who took a center in the second round who started for 2 consecutive years, right? So I mean, like, I think there's a lot to the differences in the position. Right, at guard to center and to tackle, all three of them there's been a real differentiation between the prices. That's what you're seeing with Elton B, back and forth. But I also, and I'm glad you mentioned it all the way back to McCarthy, Matt LaFleur. We all agree Matt LaFleur knows offense.
He knows
football,
man. He knows good ball. That's it.
Do you really think Matt LaFleur would prefer and believes that jet sweeps as many times as people are bitching and moaning on the post game? Do you think that he likes to run the jet sweep on third and fourth?
I don't know, Billy. I got to admit, yes, I think he kind of does.
Yeah,
if he had the option,
he would like to punish somebody and run through a space. That's what you want to be able to do, but you don't call plays that you don't fully believe are going to work.
And when you're giving the ball, the team you have,
you got to coach the team you got.
Yeah.
KYP, know your personnel. And I think there's part of it where he's like, I think we got a better chance to win on the edge than knowing that we might get bullied up front. And Josh Jacobs, the amount of times he had to make moves behind the line of scrimmage.
The number of times he was hit at or behind the line of scrimmage and still was productive.
Mm-hmm.
Like the idea that, okay, they're going to add this kind of hopefully beef whatever control up front. Man, imagine him with a head of steam. Imagine him with a lane. And we saw that at times last year. But if you can get Josh Jacobs going consistently, like not only just not having, to deal with getting hit at the line or behind the line of scrimmage, but just out in the open, out to the second level without being touched. Oh, baby. Some of those sweet moves you've seen him leave jock straps in the middle of the field, like, oh, sorry, see you later. Oh, if that becomes a regular occurrence, and I know he was talking about earlier this week about, one of his goals this year is to have more explosive runs. Well, this goes a long way to trying to kind of create that, right? Making sure that he gets to the second level or on the perimeter without being touched, without having impediments to his kind of revving up and getting into open space and leaving guys in the dust.
Well, and I think we can agree too that will play a part of that will be played by the quarterback being a little bit more confident in how much they can drop back and hit as much play action as I think they would like to.
Yeah.
There's going to be a much better balance, I think, to the football team offensively this year than it was last year. And there were times where it was like, damn, they're just running the piss out of the ball. Like, this is awesome. And then there's times where it was, do they know Josh Jacobs is back there? Because you got too far off to the other side of the play sheet. I think there's just going to be so much more consistency to it. It's one of the reasons why the teams that nobody talks about at this point in the year that have been relevant are usually the most dangerous ones.
Yeah.
That being the Packers on the NFC side, and I think like the Texans on the AFC side. Last year, you couldn't watch football for a week. Or
right.
Without season for a week.
Yeah. Well, CJ Stroud this, CJ Stroud
he's the best quarterback in football.
Right.
And the team that no one's talking about that have been relevant, last I checked, they played in the playoffs last year. They were a 1-score game against Kansas City away. Packers were in a 1-score game in the fourth quarter against the Eagles. That gets dismissed at this point in the year because there are new flavors of the month, right? Yes. Everyone gets excited with cookies and cream. There's a reason why Swirl is sitting right there in the ice cream bin every single time.
Love it.
In that first case.
I love it. I mean, the CJ Stroud thing is interesting this offseason. The fact that he's not throwing and they're trying to maybe throw some smoke on that. I don't know. That's something that I'll be interested in watching kind of transpire. But that's down with Houston. Back in Green Bay, a guy who played for Texas is now running with the ones in Matthew Golden. I got to admit, I did think, okay, we're going to get him touches. We're going to make sure that he knows what's up and blah, blah, blah. But, man, they're throwing him right in the fire, apparently. I mean, given everything we read these first two practices as far as not only running with the ones, but Jordan Love going to him early and often, repeatedly. I'm excited, Billy. I'm excited. I don't know that he hits the ground running 5-8 catches a week right out of the gate, but I love that they're kind of force feeding him into the offense right away.
Right away, get as many good feelings for that young man in the pros as possible. But also, you should listen. And I talked about this early on in the process that Matthew Golden would look good in a Green Bay Packers uniform. I know a lot of people don't love the 22, but that 22 leaping into the stands is going to look fantastic.
Yes, sir.
I think it looks super sweet, and also I think it adds more spice to the competition in that room right away.
We're talking, yes.
Because for sure, you're not the only one. And I think maybe Dontavian Wicks and maybe other people were thinking the same thing. Like, hey, man, I'm been here for 3 years. We'll start first. Rook will be behind us. And then all of a sudden he's taking more first team reps. Like, wait a second, that ain't right. But there's plenty of time to be able to play yourself into more of those spots. He ain't going to be giving a lot of opportunities back, though. I don't believe.
No, exactly.
You don't put the football on the ground. You're not going to be putting a lot of opportunities in other guys' hands. And his versatility, you're going to see 22 and 11 on the football field a lot together.
Especially, like you said, if you're consistently productive right out of the gate. I mean, it's so frustrating reading updates from practice when you've got like, oh, Love hits Dontavian Wicks in the corner of the end zone for a huge touchdown over Kinley. Like, so exciting, right? And then Dontavian Wicks lets one go through his hands. Like, I understand it's practice, right? You can't blow it out of proportion, but it is certainly in line with who we've seen Dontavian Wicks being as a player. Now you've got Matthew Golden in the mix. All right, man, if this kid catches the ball, he's got like all the possibilities in the world as far as his usage. Like you said, I don't see him giving those opportunities back.
No, and if Jordan Love continues to feed him opportunities, who he continues to trust. And I think Love is some people won't like this. I do believe he's going to have a little bit of Aaron Rodgers in him, in the standpoint of you're going to have to earn the times you touch the football. I'm not saying that I'm not going to throw you the ball. I'm not going to say that you're not going to see it again for the entire game. But you put one on the dirt on a third down, and maybe I'll miss you on the third read next time.
Especially after all the shit I went through last year.
Correct.
Third down.
Correct.
Good Lord.
And Nags, I think that, again, it has such a negative connotation, apparently, using anything about Aaron. But, like, when you say it, it's like that's
he's
sometimes a good
MVP.
Yeah, it kind of works.
You know,
and sometimes it has some merit to letting people know there's going to be repercussions for some bad actions, and that'll help. That'll help when you don't see the Rock for a few times.
I can't wait. But it's funny, we're talking about all this receiver stuff. I mean, here's the fun part. Well, fun depending on who you are. I think we're going to see a ton of 12 personnel this year. I think we're going to see a ton of 2 tight end stuff, provided Luke Musgrave can stay on the field for once. And I also think we're going to see a lot more kind of designed plays where Tucker Kraft is your primary read. Now that can take a lot of different forms, right? But man, he's just ready to bust out. I think this is the year Tucker Kraft becomes known as one of the elite tight ends in the game. You know, I think that progression, you can see it coming. And now it's just a question of feeding him, because man, there were times last year where he just got lost. Like he got forgotten about seemingly. And I don't think that's going to happen this season. I think this is the season where, all right, let's feed this kid the ball.
A lot of your production is dependent upon other things that are out of your control. The one thing that you can control is how much you block in the run game, how many times you find yourself open. He did find himself open more times than he was found a year ago. And I'm with you. That position, especially in this offense, like you just see it. There's a lot of touches. I look at the McVay group in Los Angeles.
Yep.
But Tyler Higbee's a nice player. Nobody's going to write books about how great Tyler Higbee was.
Like he was just catching like everything last year. Every time I turned on a Rams game.
Well, and if you watch Rams football,
5, 6,
you're like
7 catches every week.
Listen, DraftKings, one of the best daily fantasy guys of all time would be Tyler Higbee, because you're like scrolling on the salary on tight end. Like, how far do I got to go to find that guy that gets 5 balls thrown to him every single game? And I'm wondering why it's not Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua. Because that scheme always throws the ball to that dude. And I think there's a little bit of that hasn't been as tapped into at all times in Matt's tenure.
Yep.
But it is also an offensive coordinator that had Robert Tonyan catch 11 touchdowns in a year. So, again, I think it can happen. I think they got a much better opportunity to happen this year than others. And the more and more we get closer to it, this is why they do need to start playing games.
Oh, my God.
Because I just get more and more optimistic about the team. Like, Nags, that's not a healthy thing to do.
Bad thing, but I hear you because you do need to, like, you want to, because you have a responsibility as someone who's on the air every day at 97.3 The Game, but also as part of the Packers radio network. Like, you want to be, somewhat understanding of what you're looking at, right? And not try to make it something it isn't. But at the same time, man, all the possibilities you're talking about here are certainly attainable.
There's a lot of possibilities.
You know what I'm saying?
And one of the biggest possibilities is Edgerrin Cooper being the defensive player of the year.
Ooh,
I mean, like you also. What about another one of the plays that pops up of, you mentioned Luke Musgrave, where Edgerrin Cooper's jumping and leaping out of the air, swatting the ball down. Like there's reason to be very, very optimistic. And the people that we've griped about and that have been so frustrated with are going to play roles. No doubt about it. They play roles.
They have to.
But the biggest players are the ones that I'm most excited about. And number 10, thank you to Dan Orlowski for continuing to stoke that fire.
I love it. I love
very,
it.
very excited. Very, very excited. And 25-1 right now at the Potawatomi Sportsbook to win the MVP.
Let's go. It is funny how all that talk from last offseason, Jordan Love, he's got a chance, like he could be MVP. That's all disappeared, right? Now I understand why.
Doesn't want anybody want to talk about
everything that happened last season, but that makes it all the more fun to root for it, to follow it, and to say he could absolutely do that. Like that, there's no universe I can conceive of where that's not a possibility.
I don't think it's hyperbolic to say you take 10 throws and change the result of them, and he is in the conversation a year ago.
Yeah.
Like,
And look, I know everyone was like, oh, all the incompletions, all the interceptions, all that stuff. I get it, man. I understand the naysayers and I understand the negativity or the trepidation around the possibility of Jordan Love taking that next step. I did love Jordan's response and Matt's response really last week regarding what about the perception that you took a step back? Well, I didn't play 2 of the games. I left a couple other games early. I was dealing with injuries all year long. So yeah, the production definitely dipped because he wasn't out there as much. But also, there's a world of other stuff around the quarterback that also played into it. And that's what Matt always talks about, right? It's 1/11th. Everybody's out there, not just the quarterback. But I kind of love it. And I do hope this is the year. And I talked about this on Daily a couple weeks ago, where he does find that groove within the offense where it's each and every week you're finding kind of maybe not new things because you've seen him make plenty of amazing throws and plays, etc. But it's like every week he's kind of reaffirming that's why he's their quarterback, and it doesn't mean he has to throw for over 300 yards, a bunch of touchdowns, etc. But just facilitating the offense and driving the ball and scoring points consistently week after week after week and winning games, obviously, that's something that's been somewhat elusive here these first 2 years as a starter, right? Where you had obviously the kind of really uneven start, to put it charitably, there his first year as a starter. And then
that was very nice of you to say. Yeah.
Last year, very much dealing with the injuries all throughout the season. So yeah, this is the year. And plus, don't ever forget, late to the party in training camp last year. And that always seemed to kind of put him behind the 8 ball.
I'm glad you mentioned that part.
So, but it's just like this year, he's there OTAs. He's going to be there training camp. He's going to be there out the gate week 1. And this is my you talk about a dream. I'm like MVP, fine, whatever. I'm not hooked into that in any way, shape, or form. Any kind of it doesn't affect me. Like if he is in that conversation, great. If it isn't, if he's not, I don't care. But I do care about obviously the Packers winning games and Jordan Love being a big part of it, because I do think, and I said this a couple days ago, there's still this weird faction of Packers fans who aren't behind Jordan Love. And I hope he just obliterates all those doubts this season.
Yeah, and I don't know what gets certain people onto the bandwagon, certain people off of it. I think there's some that just want to be on that one. There's some that don't want to be, right?
Fair.
Now I do think a part of playing this position in the National Football League, and you see guys at that position do it, and you see guys at different spots do it, playing injured and playing hurt, and then learning how to be effective while playing hurt.
Yes.
Right. And that's
good point.
I mean, where you saw him play some winning football, some very much not winning football while he was dinged up. In the early parts of him playing through that injury, I thought he was learning that. I can limit my mobility, but I also still got to make good decisions. I got to make better decisions because I can't get myself out of bad spots. I can't move to my right as much, so I'm not going to be able to get this ball off. Instead, it lands in Kirby Joseph's lap, and it's a pick six in front of halftime, right? All those things you learn with games and with reps. He's only started 30 games.
Which is wild, right?
30 games in not only the NFL, Nags, 30 games in almost 6 years. Yep. If you factor in when the last time he was starting a full season. So I think there's a lot of reason to be excited. And also the training camp stuff. That wasn't a non-factor, right? When you don't start the year,
especially if you were there, which you were, and saw how disjointed that offense was before he arrived.
Brutal.
But even when he got in there, it was so clear they were all it was very disparate, herky-jerky. You I don't know what phrase you want to use, but it was not cohesive in any way.
And I don't know if you think the same way. It wasn't a problem or a distraction, but to say it wasn't a story, it was the only story anyone wanted to talk about. When you would talk about when you would go and see people after practice in the pro shop, the fans would be like, "Hey, is Jordan going to practice tomorrow?"
Yep.
I don't know, man. I'm not David Mulligetta. I'm not.
Let me call Dave and Russ Ball.
Yeah, hold on, Russ. Hey, what's going on here?
How close are we?
Tomorrow, Sunday, but
Jim in the pro shop wants to know.
Yeah, everyone wanted to know, and understandably so. You're the guy that people are coming to see. So, I think that in being on the field all of those days, starting day one with the boys, there's nothing more exciting than that day one energy. And he was in sweats that day. So, I think there's reason to be enthused. And when you start the year all guns blazing,
let's go.
That's a good thing to start.
And they're going to have Jordan Love there day one. Zach Tom will have just signed his contract extension We're going to be out there at Ray Nitschke Field.
Jair Alexander's going to be out there running around.
All right.
Maybe.
I don't know. I'm not as confident in that one. That's why I was trying to go the Zach Tom route. I'm very confident in the Zach Tom route. I'm not so confident in the Jair route.
All right, let's meet in the middle here with the one that I'm not as confident, but I was a little bit more confident a couple of days ago. What about Elton Jenkins?
Oh, he'll be there. He'll be there.
New contract?
An adjustment. Let's say that.
Adjustment. Okay.
Now, this is what I differ with some. I know my friend Justice says there's no way the Packers do anything with his deal, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I think the Packers do something. And I think he plays this year. And then I think we'll talk next offseason. But,
Okay. So you don't think it's the extension that I think he would.
But he would prefer. Yeah.
Prefer. I mean, let's spread. Come on. Let's add that guaranteed
money. Aaron Banks, how much?
Yeah.
What? Yeah, that's what happens, man. Market moves. Keeps moving.
And that guard market, Nags. I mean,
holy shit. Right.
You've been watching and you've been following this stuff for a long time. Did you ever anticipate they were going to be paying guards $20 million?
No, sir. Like I thought, the cap keeps going up,
but you thought guards.
Yeah. Right. But you thought the cap keeps going up, but quarterbacks, probably receivers, defensive ends, corners, those are the guys going to be making $20+ million a year. Guards? Nah, I didn't see that.
Yep.
Didn't see that one coming.
Here we are. Did not have that club in my bag, and here we are. We're at a point where they're making $20 million. Centers, again, justifiably so. If I was Elton Jenkins, I'd have been ticked. I'm like, you're going to do what to me?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Right before the end of the contract? No, I think you meant Sean Ryan was who you're moving to center, right?
Right.
No. Oh, you are talking to me. Okay, sweet. So we're going to be talking for a little while. That's where the and all of this in with Zach Tom. Zach Tom's playing right tackle.
Yes,
right?
Sir.
Right tackle.
Right tackle.
He doesn't want to play left tackle.
Well, here's the thing. It doesn't matter once he gets paid. Like he's just going to be like, I'm a right tackle. I'm a right tackle. I'm a right tackle. And then they're going to pay him, and then he's going to be like, hey, wherever you need me, just anything for the team. I got paid. I'm good.
Because that's an interesting spot. When Stenovich brought that up,
right.
I don't know if me again. I had a tinfoil hat on.
I don't buy that. Come on, I know he said like we're going to have competition at left and right tackle, but man, Zach Tom's played every down at right tackle at the ones. So in the two practices that the media's been in there for, and for good reason. He's their right tackle.
Yeah. Also, he's played there, and the footwork's good. We had that poor young man flipping feet all over the place his first year. Just settle him in over the right side.
Be a right tackle. I mean, I'm all in.
And sell some 50 jerseys. Come on, what are we doing?
Exactly. Make Zach Tom great again. Come on now. Zach Tom Bombadil. Love it. Billy, I could do this all day. Unfortunately, I can't. So I got to thank you.
You're
for
a busy
your time.
guy, I know.
Got to thank you for your time. And make sure people are listening to No BS at 97.3 The Game. And later this year, the return.
Yeah, it is.
Carry the G Radio at 97.3 The Game every Tuesday. I'm excited for that.
I cannot wait. I cannot wait to get started. But
now.
Listen, you talk about being excited for training camp. I'm excited for you to get back to the good land. It misses you.
I can't wait. Cannot wait.
Excited to be talking about padded football.
That's
not just the 7
That's what I'm talking. Well, I'm going to be there the same week you guys are there. Like 97.3 The Game, I know, is there that first week when the pads are on. So I will be there. You guys will be there. I'll probably have to come up to the tent, say hello.
You're going to have to. You're going to have to see the little guy, too. He's
little guy who's not so little anymore, by the way.
Yeah,
by the way, real quick shout out to your little man for the Go Pack Go cheering / screaming clip that you put up. Man, that needs to be a ringtone. Like, that is awesome. That was fantastic.
I got a good feeling that video might be the Sunday morning wake up call for fans. How we feeling this morning, Packers fans?
That is so good.
Oh, it's gonna be good, man. I cannot wait for it. And summer's always nice. I get this summer thing is good, but football season's better. Way better.
But summer, take your time. Enjoy your loved ones who won't see you for about 9 months. So that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Billy, can't thank you enough. Carry the G Radio, the podcast available. Please hit like, subscribe, leave us a review on whatever you listen to, whether it's Apple, whether it's Spotify, wherever. Like, tell the folks about it. Tell your friends. Billy and Aaron. It's a good time. And
tell your girlfriends, tell your baby mamas, tell your best friends, your worst friends, your enemies, everybody that will listen.
Anybody and everybody who likes the Packers, and even if they don't, you never know.
They might like this even more.
Chatting. Exactly. Billy, thanks so much, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
See you next.